Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Shift. This is a really fine edition that we've got happening today. I got a couple of friends of mine on the line, Randy and Linda Layman. They live on layman terms. You know, they didn't come by this easy. A lot of things have happened in their lives that brought them to this point. They're going to share their stories with you. I'm not going to steal any of their thunder. But what I want to talk about today is that many of us feel that we can't have the life by design. We have to do whatever is put in front of us. We live in a poor neighborhood, so we're always going to be poor. We have this in our life, or we drive that kind of car. We get all of these things in our life that we believe have to be there for whatever reason. And the reality is that's just simply not true. There's a lot of things that we can do to change, to shift. And that's what the shift is all about. Is when you're in one place, how do you move to another place? And I know that from outside looking in, it looks impossible. It looks like that life over there, that's for somebody else. I'll never get there. Even though every day, right in front of us, we see people who have come from adversity and become rich and famous. You know, Oprah being one of the big ones that everybody recognizes, but many athletes, people who have lost their legs in Afghanistan to go on to be runners on artificial legs, people who have done remarkable things with their lives. And it's interesting because most of the time, it's when something happened to them that shook them up to the point of making a change that made their life better, that actually got them closer to their dream. I really think it's unfortunate that we just can't do that we just can't get up in the morning and say, well, you know what, today I'm going to be Batman. And for the whole day, you just be Batman. I'm certainly sure that you can do anything that you want. I know that. But what we have to do is get to the point where every one of you who are listening to us believes the same thing. So we share our stories. We share them to allow you into our world to know that it wasn't easy. None of these decisions were easy. We were uncomfortable. We were in pain. We wanted something different. And we were those people with our hands up against the glass going, I wish this could be different. So today, we talked to two people living the beach bum lifestyle. And of course, most people, that's the first thing they think about when they think of freedom. Oh, I want to live by the beach. I want to put my toes in the sand, have a cocktail at my side. But if everybody did that, we would not have any room on the beach. Each of us has a place that means something. I live in the mountains. I love them. And beaches are fine for me to visit, and I'm lucky to have friends that are there that I can. But my heart is in the mountains, and that's where I find my peace. So you couldn't get me to move somewhere on a beach. I'll visit, but I don't want to be there. So each of us has that. Who are you, and what is your peace on earth? Where is that? And how do you get there? It's internally and it's externally. And I'm going to let the Laymans chat about that today. First, Randy, I want to talk to you because you had a life shift that many people don't make it through, and on a couple of different levels, because you have a marriage, you have a relationship, and then you had the world that you were living in, and that shifted. So can you tell us a little bit about where that started, how it came to be that you became the best beach bum that I know?
Well, good evening, Mark. How are you?
Awesome over here.
Great. I'm glad you have us on the show. It really is a pleasure to be with you tonight. And the thing that's really interesting is, as you stated, I had a major shift in our life. I was a paramedic for 30-plus years, and that was my life. You know, it was my career path, and that's where I was supposed to be at that time. And I did what most people do in life. They keep working hard and keep building up through the ranks and get into upper management. And I did all that, and I thought I was living the life. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, everything came to a halt. I was in a upper middle management position, and we brought in a new regional VP. And just like many corporations, after about 6 months, he cleans house and gets rid of all of his directors and brings in his people. He called me up to his office up in Atlanta, of all places. He actually flew me up there one day, and said, I'm making a change, and thanks for everything you've done in the business, but we are going a different direction and no longer need you. And I was stunned. I mean, that just doesn't happen, or at least it never happened to me. So I just didn't know what I was going to do. And I contacted Linda and said, guess what? I've been fired. They're going in a different direction, and he's bringing in his own team. And her first comments to me was, good, glad that happened to you. And I'm going, are you serious? She goes, yeah, because quite frankly, you had really changed over the years, that you'd been in EMS so long that you really were becoming very negative and looking at the dark side of everything instead of the positive. And when I started looking at that, I realized that was true. My entire life was EMS, and the people in EMS, when you're in it long enough, you really start looking at the negatives instead of the positives, the very dark side of it. So anyhow, I came back home. Long and short of it, we had a trip set up already, a vacation. We were going to take a cruise, and I told Linda, well, obviously we can't do that now because I don't have any money coming in. I'm unemployed. And she basically informed me that that was not going to happen, that we were going on the trip, and we were going to enjoy it. So we went on the trip. Had a great time, and during that entire period, I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do in life? I have no idea. You got this big shift in your life, and you just don't know what direction you're going to go. But sometimes you just got to allow things to happen and just let it all fall into place. On the way back from the trip, we were at LAX taking the red-eye flight back, and so here it is about midnight waiting for our flight to come in. And, of course, there's not much going on in a airport at that time of the night. So I did what most people do. They go around to the different shops, and I came into one of the bookstores, and I started browsing the motivational books and the business books and stuff, trying to figure out maybe something there will help me. And I came across Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, and I thought that was a really weird title for a book. I picked it up and started reading it. Long and short, it really had a light bulb pop into my mind that this is something I can do, and that's basically become my own boss. I realized I was almost 50 years of age when this happened, and I did not want to start from the ground again. We lived in a beautiful part of the country, which is down in the panhandle of Florida, and we love that part of the world. And if I was going to stay in my career path as a paramedic, I was going to have to relocate and start from the bottom, and if I'm lucky, I may get a week's vacation. This day and age, that's not even a guarantee, and you couldn't do anything else. And I was fed up with that. I didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. And so we took the bull by the horns and decided to become an entrepreneur and start working for ourselves. And we studied a lot and really were fortunate enough to find some great mentors that taught us how we could make a change in our life and work for ourselves, and give us the flexibility to do what we want to and basically be beach bums, as you would say, and work when we want to and make the living that we want in life and not be dictated by the terms of others. And so that's where we're at. We're living our dreams, and very happy about it.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to live there, too, because I can visit. But I know that there's a lot of things that are underlying in the decision-making process, and I think that a lot of people that are here listening us tonight are probably standing there. They may have just lost their job, or maybe they're looking at the fact that their job is going to run out, their contract's coming up, and maybe they put some feelers out and there's nothing happening there, and they're scared right now because they're going, well, all I've ever known in my life was having a job. All I've ever known in my life is to get up at 6 o'clock, shower, shave, head out the door, and be somewhere, clock in, clock out, and get a paycheck. And they're sitting there going, well, that's all well and good for Randy to say, and he read a book, and that changed his life. Randy, what happened internally to you that gave you the confidence? And I know Linda was a great part of that. But inside of you, the fear, how did you overcome that? How were you able to say, you know what, I can do this? What internally was going on in your thought process so we can help someone maybe sitting in that chair right now make it through this point?
Sure. To be honest, I was scared. I mean, even with the mindset change that I had that I was going to go into business for myself, I really did not know what direction I was going to go at that time. And so there was a lot of fear. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't have fear, you're probably not going in the right direction, because you have to be somewhat uncomfortable with what's happening and to take that plunge and make a difference in your life. You know, if you just continue the status quo, you're probably not going to move forward in life and be successful. And so sometimes you just have to overcome those fears. And the best way that I was able to overcome those fears is obviously with my wife, who is excellent at personal growth and development. But also, you know, even though you've got a wife that does that or a spouse that does that, sometimes you don't listen to them because they're too close to you. And so I recommend that you immerse yourself into personal growth and development no matter what you're doing in life, whether you stay in a job or you decide to go ahead and step out and become your own boss. Personal growth is critical, and personal growth and development is critical. So I would recommend finding some great mentors that know how to teach that, or finding some incredible books and audios out there, and constantly study. You should be actually doing personal growth and development on a daily basis to be successful. You don't just do it once, you know, read a book and say, I'm done, and so obviously I'm an expert at personal growth now. It's a lifetime experience. It's constant. You have to always, for the rest of your life, do it to make a big difference. And you know, that's the big key right there to any changes in your life, is to overcome the obstacles and move forward and take the challenge.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you about, you know, we call it personal development. It can be emotional intelligence and personal growth. And you're exactly right. We do get comfortable, or even not only to the point of comfort, but we might think that this is our lot in life. Like, this is who we are, and that no external force or anything we read or see or do is actually going to change that. And us three, we know that that's not true. We know that by immersing ourselves in these types of environments and in other headspaces, that our minds, our brains, are pretty smart. They understand that that's a better path to follow and allow us to follow that path. It's just getting on the path to start off, like cracking that first book. And I'm sure that a guy won't go down to the local pub and say, hey, I'm reading this book on personal development, because they feel that it's not manly to do that. But the reality is they won't be going to the pub anymore, because they'll have so much more in their life once they get past the pub mentality. And I'm not saying I don't like a good cocktail once in a while, but too many people are looking for salvation, libation, enjoyment in the wrong places when their lives could be so much more. Now, Linda, I also want to get to you too, because you have an incredible story, something that you're going through, and you inspire me to be a better person every single day and every time that I actually chat with you. Together, I believe you're a real dynamic relationship that is always so evolving, but mostly it's because what's happened in your lives has forced you to evolve. It could have destroyed you, both of you, and your relationship and marriage, but it didn't happen. So, Linda, from your perspective, with Randy losing his job, the mindset that you had, I know that you trained very highly with Bob Proctor and many other, and have studied this as well through all of your life, and have the capability and the internal mechanisms to deal with this. But let's share a little bit about the underlying part of that. When you do take a breath in, it's not always a comfortable breath. Sometimes you have to recenter yourself too. So let's chat a little bit about what your experience was and what it is now today. Linda, you're up.
Cool. Well, gosh, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And as always, I enjoy our little chats on air. You know, Randy's right. When he called and you know, he told me that he had just been let go, and actually what I said was, you know, it's the best news I've heard all day. And I have to tell you, though, Mark, I felt very comfortable about it because I was confident and I had unwavering faith that there was something better out there that he needed to be doing and that we needed to be doing. And sometimes it takes a big old baseball bat on the top of your head to say, hey, listen to me. It's like your internal guidance. The universe has been trying to point you in a different direction, but most of the time we tend to ignore that intuition and ignore that guidance because when we try to rationalize it, it doesn't make any sense to us at the time. So just to set the stage a little bit more on that, this was right before Thanksgiving. And my mother was in town, too, visiting. So that was fun. We didn't say a word. I didn't say a word to anyone about it. Just Randy and I were having our conversations. And as a matter of fact, Mom and I had already decided to go out. I wanted a few new items and a few new clothes to wear, especially for the formal dinner and things like that were going to be on the cruise ship. And so we proceeded. We went business as usual. And I had full faith because of my studies that it was going to be okay and that the money would be there when we needed it. As a matter of fact, at this same point in time is when I was making decisions that I wanted a different course in my life, too. I was working with a national company, and I was enjoying it, but I knew that this wasn't my passion by any stretch of the imagination. And after we got back from the trip, as Randy was kind of revamping what he was going to do, and he was talking with me about going into business for himself and ourselves, and we were trying to decide on what that exactly would look like. At the same time, I was making the decision that I wanted to be personally trained by Bob Proctor as a life success consultant so that I could take the information, the enormous amount of information that I was learning, not only from Bob but from other mentors in the industry. I wanted to be able to I guess, pull it together and make it make sense so that I could teach it, so I could share it with other people. And the only way that I could see to do that was to go through Bob's course and Bob's education so that I could develop my own programs to take out there and help others be successful. So not only did we lose half of our income, but I was making the decision to shell out quite a substantial amount to go through the necessary training in order to really supercharge the business that we wanted to get into. And Mark, it's really interesting because this scares most people. I mean, I would say 10 years prior to this, if this same thing would have happened, we would have acted totally in fear. We would have allowed our own internal conditioning that we'd been raised with, you have to have a job in order to succeed. You have to, a job brings money into you, and if you lose that job, oh my goodness, you better have another one right away. 10 years ago, this would have scared the pants off of both of us. We would have gone into panic mode. I probably would have cried my eyes out. I probably would have yelled and screamed at him and said stuff like, well, what did you do to make them fire you? Why were you such a mess up? And I can just hear all of these very negative conversations that probably the majority of people out there have. And it truly, as you said, it would have destroyed us completely. But instead, we realized that we drew on our own internal strength, and we realized that we can make out of this either something absolutely horrible, or we can take this, learn the lessons that we need to learn from it, but this will actually be like our catalyst, our trampoline to bounce us to a higher level. And we can draw on everything that we have learned throughout our entire life, and then we can reach higher and further. And this was just a wake-up call for us, saying you've been stuck in a rut. You've been complacent instead of moving forward. You've been kind of in your comfort zone, and it's time to step outside of that comfort zone. And when you live from that perspective, and you live from the understanding that whatever you truly desire, when you're tapping into what the universe is actually pushing you to do and live from that desire, things will fall into place. Money will fall into place. Circumstances, people will be brought into your life, and you realize with those relationships that they're going to help take you further and higher than you've ever been before. And that's truly a message that I know Randy and I both want to get out there to anyone struggling, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's, with their job. I know during that same period of time that Randy was released from his position, probably millions of people all around the world were experiencing the same thing, because that was about the time that the economy here in the United States, and then this kind of had a domino effect all throughout the world, it was tanking. People were being laid off, especially people with corporate jobs. They thought that this was safe and secure, and now all of a sudden their security is gone. And not only that, the investments that they had were probably in the stock market, and the stock market was tanking too. So they were living from truly a state of panic and fear. And we don't have to live that way, Mark, and I know that you've experienced the same thing. You don't have to live in fear, right?
We don't, but I know that it's easier said than done. And I honestly do believe one thing is that you don't know how strong you really are unless you're really tested. And I believe, like you, whoever you believe in, Buddha, God, the universe, whatever, you know that something always puts you in the path that you need to be, or put something in the way of your path to challenge you, to ensure that you are receptive, perceptive, and know that where you're at right now is exactly where you need to be, and that inside of yourself you don't have any doubts about that. I know that people, family, friends have doubted some of the things I've done, but internally I never have. I've just known without a shadow of a doubt in my mind anywhere that whatever I'm doing is exactly right for me at this exact time frame in my life. Now, Linda, you and Randy, that people would think, well, that's great. Now you guys are up and having the time of your life, taking the boat rides and having the fishing and the cocktails on the beach and watching the beautiful sunsets. But then something came along and crossed your path again that could have taken this in a whole different trajectory. But again, you stood in your calmness and your center and took this on as well. So let's chat a little bit about that tonight.
Sure, Mark. I appreciate it. As you said, that there's always going to be challenges and obstacles placed in our path, and it could be to test us, or it could be to redirect us, because we've set on our path, or we've set our goal, or we've set our dream, and Mark, most of the time that's not a straight line, and it's really not up to us to know each and every step along the way. Again, we have to take those twists and turns that come along, even if they don't make any sense at all. And I know one of the things that I was actually, I don't want to say struggling with, but I was questioning was, how can I serve better? Or how can I serve more people? I was actually redefining myself, trying to rebrand myself, if you will, and I was tossing a coin, trying to decide which direction to go with a piece of our business, which again is personal growth. Do I focus on people in healthcare? Do I focus on women in business? And I remember saying, help me find my direction. And folks, when you put out the question, really we need to be open to the answer, and we need to be grateful for that answer when it comes, and then we'll be guided even further. I was, in November of 2012, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And, Mark, at that point in time, I could have totally fallen apart on the floor and said, oh, why me, why me, why has this happened to me? But people, I know my family, when I told them this, kind of looked at me funny, and some of my friends. But what instead I said was, thank you. thank you. Now I know the direction that I need to take right now. Because it's just like a huge door opened up and a big shining light opened up and said, okay, Linda, here's your direction. Here's your path that you need to go right now. These are the people that you need to help right now. The people walking along a path. Maybe they've been given a horrible health issue to deal with. In my case, it's breast cancer. So I didn't even think twice about it. Just like, okay, these are the people I need to help, and I jumped on board with that. How can I serve? And the best way that I can serve right now is to help women with breast cancer walk this path and be able to show them that it doesn't have to be a desperation. It doesn't have to be a diagnosis that's going to take them down to the bottom of the earth. Instead, I'm here to help uplift them and help them down this path and help them heal. There's no healing in any kind of health issue that we have if we are living in the pity party, the oh woe is me, the what did I do, what bad things did I do in life? And I hear this a lot. What did I do to get this punishment? This is not a punishment. This is a course. This is a path. This is an obstacle. This is a test that we need to overcome. And instead, when we approach it with, okay, there's something for me to learn here. This is what it is. It's neither good nor bad. It just is. So what good can I glean out of it? How can I focus on that? What good can I do in this process? And so I started a website. As you well know, it's breastcancerhealingpath.com. And I decided to help other women not only with resources, but to help them internally with their mindset shift, to show them that this is a good thing and that they can really lift themselves, and through a change in their own mindset, they can actually help their bodies heal themselves, because we were gifted with these marvelous bodies that when we allow healing to happen, healing really does happen. We give ourselves, I guess, externally what they need, nutrients, changes in, little changes in diets, but the true healing comes from our own thinking, our own feeling, our own mindset. That's how we actually assist ourselves, our bodies, to heal themselves. And so that's why I did the website. So again, another obstacle, but I think instead of an obstacle, it was more of a direction change, quite frankly, based on what I'd already asked for.
On correction lines in my life. They have them all over the world, but that's why I say, I'll hit the correction line, so I've got to move in that direction. I want to, anybody who's listening tonight, I want you to encourage you to, if you are in Linda's, you've been diagnosed with breast cancer. Her website is amazing, but you can connect with her on that site as well. All of us are available. If you want to learn how to live the beach bum lifestyle, Randy is always there. And my site is marked, so you have a view of a lot of different things in my life. And I just share. I'm just one of those people that shares my life with the world, and I always have been. Randy, I want to talk to you just before we sign off for tonight. I want to talk about the male perspective of this. Now, your wife has just come home and has told you that she has breast cancer, and I know that you're in a different position because the calming effect that Linda would have. But I'm sure internally there was struggles going on within you, and as well, like men sometimes don't know how to deal with this or what to say. I know women's fears are, I may be disfigured, my husband won't love me, I won't be pretty. Women generally have some horrible feelings about themselves that needs to be knocked out. But what were you feeling, Randy, and how did you support Linda? Because I think that's really important too.
Mark, that's a good question. And I would have to answer it in two different ways. I look at myself, and what changes have happened in my personal growth over the last several years, and a lot of that is directly associated with my wife, Linda, and how that impacted the way I viewed this entire situation. But I'll take a step back. If this would have happened 10 years ago, I would have been a mess. I would have been doom and gloom. I would have, been contacting my friends and just miserable, looking at all the negative aspects instead of any of the positive aspects with this. And I think the outcome could have been different, and our personal lives would have been tremendously different. What actually happened, however, is when she first told me that she had breast cancer, my first thought was, well, when did you find out? And then I found out that she'd known for a while, and I was a little ticked about that she didn't open up to me and tell me immediately, what was going on that she suspected. But past that, I looked her right in the eye and said, "Great, no problem. We're gonna beat this." And she felt the same way. Immediately in my mind, I knew that this was really a small bump in the road of our lives, and we're ready to move past this, get this resolved, and continue on. There was not 1 minute in my mind the thought of this is going to be the end, or this is going to be the end of our relationship, or any of that. So, and the only reason why I felt that way, quite frankly, is because of how far we had come in our own growth as a couple, and also in our beliefs in, the positives instead of the negatives. And so it's kind of unfair in some ways when you ask me that thought process of where I was, because we had gone so far in our own lives that it was somewhat of a non-factor that we know what the end result's going to be and what direction's going to happen. But honestly, if it had been 10 years ago and that would have happened, I would have been a mess. I would have been a disaster, and I don't know how I'd have been able to support her. Our situation in our relationship and with our businesses have given us the flexibility to be there for each other, and that's the beauty of it, because every single physician visit that she's had, I've been there with her, and our jobs allow us that flexibility. When we go up to Birmingham, Alabama, where she's having her treatment, and that's about a 10-hour round trip, it doesn't bother us at all, because while she's up there being seen or going through her testing, I'm on my computer working, and I can be in Birmingham, I can be in L.A., I can be down here, I can be anywhere with her while she's being treated and still be able to do the business. So I'm blessed in that aspect.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I know that I was in the same position when I was diagnosed, to be able to have some other things that I could do. And I think that through this process, we will be helping you. Again, to our listeners, we're going to be helping you take this step by step. Each of us have a different perspective. And I know that you're probably sitting there saying, well, that's all well and good for you, because I know, just like Randy said, just like Linda brought up, if you put us back a few years ago, we'd probably be sitting in the shoes that you are. So we can take you from there to here. And I'm going to bring Randy out here more often on this show, because I think it's really important for our men who come on here whose wives have been diagnosed with any kind of cancer, how to stand up and be supportive of them. And sometimes, guys, it doesn't take a whole lot for us ladies. It's just to know that we're still desirable, that you still love us and you still care. And it's just a phone call sometimes, just saying, hey, I was just thinking of you today. There's little things that we'll give you that you can take into that horrible whirlwind and hurricane that just happened into your life. We're going to be here to do that. Now, I'm just going to bring us into the bottom end of this. On our next episode, we're going to be talking about being stuck and not being able to get unstuck. So Linda and I are going to be here on our next episode and talking about how you can get unstuck, because there's nothing that's out there in anywhere in the world that you can't get unstuck from if you have the tools. And Linda has some incredible tools for this. So be watching on our next episode for next Monday night. We're going to have Stuck and Unstuck, and we really hope to see you there. But for tonight, we're going to sign off with a very positive thought, because Linda always has them, and we always leave with positive. So, Linda, it's yours.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Mark. No, I guess my thought for my thought for this evening would be to just breathe when something hits you, whether it's a job loss that you didn't expect or a relationship that just suddenly went south and you didn't understand why. My thought for today is just remember to breathe. Don't hold your breath. Don't hang on to that negative energy, which we tend to do when something scares us. Instead, when you feel that fear about to come up or that anger, just remember to take a deep, deep breath in and out and just breathe and release that negative energy, and you'll find that you'll have much more clarity moving forward. So this has been a great show, and for Linda and Randy and Mark, we'll just say good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.